Okay, thank you very much, Pak Dr. Muhammad Natsir M.Hum. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good afternoon. Welcome to our Friday Forum live from English Language and Art Department, Universitas Negeri Medan. We hope all participants safe and well.
Thank you, ma'am.
The Honorable Dean of Faculty Language and Art Universitas Negeri Medan, Bapak Dr. Abdurrahman M.Hum, the Honorable all faculty dignitaries, distinguished speakers, respected fellow lecturers and teachers, all participants, Bapak Ibu, ladies and gentlemen. So I'm Ani Pulungan, and I'm delighted to be here, Bapak Ibu, as your moderator in the most respected forum. And I should express my gratitude to all the participants who join us by the Zoom today. First of all, there's Alhamdulillah for the whole blessings and great opportunity Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala given us for we are able to conduct this Friday Forum, and hopefully you enjoyed to the very end of this session. Bapak Ibu, ladies and gentlemen, improving access to education remains a major challenge in many countries. Improving the quality and relevance of education is now receiving more attention than ever, with an emphasis on the importance of values, attitudes, and skills that promote mutual respect and peaceful coexistence. Beyond knowledge and cognitive skills, the international community urges education that will help solve the existing and emerging global challenges that threaten our planet, while wisely making the most of the opportunities at hand. So I would like to greet Madam Rebecca Rosario. So good afternoon, Madam.
Good afternoon.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you, Ma'am Annie.
Yeah, far away from Philippines. Thank you very much for your coming today and joining us. Bapak Ibu, let me introduce you all to Madam Rebecca. Madam Rebecca is an online teacher at CMO Innotech, and then she handles teacher education courses in the undergraduate and major courses for reading education, MA literature, and PhD major in educational foundation graduate levels. In 2022, she got the University Achievement Award, Best Paper, Inclusive and Lifelong Learning, for the paper entitled Analysis of Flexible Pedagogy Towards a Framework During Educational Disruption. And also in 2022, she won a University Achievement Award, Achievement in Research for publishing the paper entitled Outcome-Based Curricular Review of a Graduate Program Using Curriculum Quality Audit Methodology. She was also the most outstanding woman in service of the Baikal University Research Development and Extension. In 2021, she was an outstanding UNESCO Club Educator of the Philippines, International Assembly of the Youth for UNESCO. Bapak Ibu, I can't read her long CV without further ado. We now moving to the core of today's forum. But before we start, I would like to inform you that you can type your questions, Bapak Ibu, on the chat box during the speaker's presentation. And at the end of the talk, we have a questioning and answering session. Madam Rebecca, the screen is yours. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Annie. to the esteemed dean and officials of the university, to our beloved faculty, all the participants in the Zoom room right now, or those viewing the YouTube, a pleasant afternoon to all of you. Warm greetings from Bicol University, Philippines. Silemat Singa. Good afternoon, everyone. Today, I am pleased and honored to be with you all. I hope that my sharing for this afternoon will be relevant to you in any way possible. So may I be allowed to share my screen, Madam Moderator?
Yes, of course, Madam.
My sharing today is entitled Mainstreaming Global Citizenship Education in the Curriculum, focusing on strategies and instructional resources. Let me start by presenting to you the coverage of my presentation. I will be talking about global citizenship education as a flexible framework. Thereafter, we're going to describe who a global citizen is. Then we're going to tackle suggested pedagogies by UNESCO. And then we are going to talk about the strategies I have observed from selected Grecian schools. I will also talk a little about the GZ approach or learning model that we tested in our university. And then I'll be showing to you some sample GZ activities, which will make you realize that all along you have been doing this, perhaps not just using the jargon global citizenship education. And then we have some closing notes to end the presentation. I also included a slide where there are suggested websites that you can visit should you wish to read further on about global citizenship education. So friends, esteemed faculty, these are the topics that I will be talking about this afternoon in my sharing. Let's start with global citizenship as a framework, and let us emphasize that it is a flexible framework. According to Oxfam, global citizenship is a multi-dimensional educational concern. Let us take note that prior to UNESCO's drafting of the UNESCO Global Citizenship Framework, the United Kingdom is already implementing programs on global citizenship. Oxfam is a United Kingdom-based organization, and they have several undertakings and publications on global citizenship. And when we speak of multi-dimensional educational concern, it means that global citizenship involves asking a lot of questions and critical thinking. So there will be a lot of concerns and issues, both locally and globally. And if we would like to integrate global citizenship education, that means we should encourage the development of critical thinking and the asking of thought-provoking questions. It also involves exploring local global connections and our views, values, and assumptions. So it's not only about exploring the global issues or about the local issues. Please take note that there is a connection between the local and the global issues. So global citizenship involves the exploration of the connections of the local issues to global issues, considering our views, values, and assumptions. It also means exploring the complexity of global issues and engaging with multiple perspectives. So we do encourage people to express their perspectives. We make sure that people from all walks of life, all sectors are represented properly in discussions or fora to tackle about the complex global issues. It also means exploring issues related to social justice, whether this is happening locally or globally. Global citizenship also means applying learning to real-world issues and context. So it means it involves contextual learning. You know, activities or learning tasks should be reality-based. It also means opportunities for learners to take informed, reflective action and have their voices heard. So it means that global citizenship will recognize that everyone, all the learners, should be provided with opportunities to have informed and reflective action, making sure that their points of view or perspectives are heard. And take note that global citizenship is for all ages and all areas of the curriculum. In the examples, however, that I will be mentioned, many of the examples pertain to English language. So I customize the discussion because the sponsoring department is the English language. But this is something that is for all areas of curriculum and for all ages, which means it will cut across the different levels of the educational system. And global citizenship means it is enriching the everyday teaching and learning practices and the whole school environment. It doesn't mean changing what you already have. It means being open to a flexible framework in order to enrich the instructional practices in the school and the whole school environment as well. So that's according to Oxfam. Global citizenship is a multidimensional educational concern. It is considered to be a framing paradigm which encapsulates how education can develop knowledge, skills, values, and attitudes learners need for securing a world which is more just, tolerant, peaceful, sustainable, secure, and inclusive. So, in other words, if we would like to mainstream global citizenship education in the curriculum across levels, across learning areas, we have to bear in mind that the teacher should include learning experiences that will allow the learners to develop their knowledge, skills, values, and attitudes that will allow them to contribute to the society, making it peaceful, just, tolerant, secure, sustainable, and inclusive, and not otherwise. Global citizenship education is directly related to the civic, social, and political socialization function of education, and ultimately to the contribution of education in preparing children and young people to deal with the challenges of today's increasingly interconnected and interdependent world. With the advent of globalization and with the development of digital technologies, countries and people have become more interconnected and interdependent, whether that is along trade, that is along education, science, practically all human affairs. All countries and people in the world are interconnected and interdependent to one another. So there is only one home for the entire humanity. Global citizenship education, according to UNESCO, emphasizes a sense of belonging to a broader community and a common humanity. So we may be citizens of our country, but we are also citizens of the world. So we adopt the concept of the common humanity. It emphasizes political, economic, social, and cultural interdependency and interconnectedness between the local, the national, and the global. So we all belong to one broad community and common humanity. This is actually the UNESCO Global Citizenship Framework. I will zoom it in the next few slides, but this is the whole illustration of the framework. There are 3 domains of learning: cognitive, socio-emotional, and behavioral. And aside from the domains, you are going to see in the illustration the key learning outcomes, the key learner attributes, the topics, and the learning objectives by age or level of education. Should you wish to read further on about the different topics and objectives by age or level of education, you can simply Google UNESCO Global Citizenship Framework, and this is available in the UNESCO website, downloadable for free. Moving on to the details of the framework to understand it better. So the key learners attributes are there. I will not read the details, but I will just read the major headings for the different domains. For the cognitive, informed and critically literate citizens. Considering socio-emotional domain, socially connected and respectful of diversity. And considering skills, ethically responsible and engaged. And considering the topics, there are suggested topics under the first domain, cognitive, a set of topics. These are broad topics because you're going to see in the actual reference, if should you wish to read further on, the specific topics. These are the topics in the pink part of the illustration under socio-emotional domain. And under the green for the behavioral, these are also the recommended topics. And they have identified learning objectives for pre-primary and lower primary, upper primary level, lower secondary, and upper secondary. So that's how UNESCO organized Global Citizenship Education Framework to guide teachers and practitioners who would like to enrich their instructional practices or the entire school system with global citizenship education. Please take note that of the 17 Sustainable Development Goals, global citizenship education falls under Sustainable Development Goal number 4, target number 7. So you can Google SDG 4.7, and then you are going to see more references and readings about global citizenship education. So that's the UNESCO framework. So if I zoom it further, so you can see it further. So may I just reiterate, these are the key learner attributes. If you are already addressing this in your classes, in your learning experiences provided to the students, that means you have been all along integrating or mainstreaming global citizenship education, perhaps not just using the term global citizenship education. So the key attributes to repeat are the following: informed and critically literate citizens, socially connected and respectful of diversity, and ethically responsible and engaged. These are also the topics. I tried to zoom it so you can see it from your slide. And the learning objectives by age or level of education. So that's the UNESCO Global Citizenship Framework, another internationally respected and highly reputable organization, which can be considered as a leader or pioneer when it comes to education for global citizenship, is Oxfam. According to Oxfam, the global is local. and that is considered to be the 21st century context. According to them, we are linked as never before to other people on every continent. So just like what I said earlier, countries and peoples from different parts of the world are connected to one another. And this has been facilitated by the digital technologies. So even with the pandemic, people are still connected, either because of education, of trade and business, of personal connection, cultural exchange, or many other reasons. So it means that we are socially and culturally connected through media, telecommunications, and travel and migration. We are economically connected through trade. We are environmentally connected because we're simply sharing one planet. And we are politically connected through international relations and systems of regulation to ensure that there will be peace and order in the world. Although the reality is there are many misunderstandings and wars going on in many different parts of the world. Oxfam further explains that global citizenship, as I mentioned earlier, involves asking of questions, exploring local global connections, exploring complexity of global issues, issues related to social justice, and applying learning to real-world issues and contexts. And therefore, global citizenship is not simply about telling people what to think or do. We encourage them to ask questions instead. It's not only about faraway places and people, and it's not only about going there physically. We may not be able to go there physically, but we are having local global connection, just like what we are doing today. And global citizenship is not simply providing simple solutions to complex issues, but rather we try to explore the different shades of solutions, the different shades of gray, so to speak, in finding solutions to complex problems. So that means it involves people from different sectors. It is not focusing only on charitable fundraising activity, but rather it's more of providing genuine assistance by ensuring that social justice is existing, that we are contributing to inclusive and to a just society. Global citizenship is not about abstract learning devoid of real life application and outcomes. It should be contextual and reality based. The real phenomena should be integrated in the lessons, making therefore the learning of the students relevant and reality based. Moving on, global citizenship does not involve tokenistic inclusion of learners and decision, should be not involved in the second column. It is not too difficult for young children to understand because it's for all ages. We can adjust the learning activities or tasks so that it will be suited to the age of the learners, but we are still addressing the different key learners attributes or the different domains and the different learning outcomes. It should not be considered as an extra subject because it is something that can be integrated in different learning areas, including the general practices in the school system. And it should be a part of the daily life in the academe, in the university, or in the school. So it's not just pertaining to a particular day or a particular week of celebration, but it should be a matter of sustained practices on a daily basis. And it's not limited to inside the classroom only. By mainstreaming, we mean outside the classroom engagements also. So that means the entire school system, and it can even go beyond the entire school system to involve the other stakeholders of education. So that's according to Oxfam. To explain further what global citizenship is and what global citizenship is not. And this is the illustration of Oxfam's framework for global citizenship. So they call it as the key elements for responsible global citizenship. If you will note, it has great resemblance to UNESCO's global citizenship framework. So they also have 3 elements: knowledge and understanding, which is similar to the cognitive dimension; the skills, which is similar to behavioral dimension; and values and attitude, which is similar or parallel to socio-emotional dimension under the UNESCO GCED framework. For knowledge and understanding, they include social justice and equity, diversity, globalization and interdependence, sustainable development, and peace and conflict. So these are issues being tackled considering knowledge and understanding. For skills, these are the skills being focused according to Oxfam: critical thinking, ability to argue effectively, ability to challenge injustice and inequalities, respect for people and things, cooperation, and conflict resolution. For the last key element, values and attitudes, Oxfam includes the following: sense of identity and self-esteem, empathy, commitment to social justice and equity, value and respect for diversity, concern for the environment and commitment to sustainable development, belief that people can make a difference. So these are the key elements for responsible global citizenship under Oxfam. So you are going to notice a great semblance because UNESCO used the publication of Oxfam as one of its references when it drafted its UNESCO GCED framework. Still speaking about global citizenship as a flexible framework, therefore we say the idea is not to rewrite every lesson that you teach, but simply to be aware of where you can make global connection. So you will not totally rewrite your lessons, you will not replace them, but you will find points of integration where you can make global connections. You know, it can be in different parts of the lesson. Sometimes you will be able to develop schemes of work which use all parts of the framework, meaning perhaps covering the 3 dimensions, or if you are using Oxfam's framework, the 3 key elements. While on other occasions, you may be just focusing on one of those. That's absolutely all right. It doesn't mean you would like to mainstream global citizenship education, then at all instances, you have to cover all the domains. The integration should be made explicit and adequate, but it should also be appropriate. So if only one dimension or key element is appropriate for the particular lesson that you have, then so be it. There will be instances that you may cover just one, other instances you cover 2, other instances you cover all the 3 dimensions or key elements. And the framework is considered to be cyclical rather than linear. So any stage can be approached, developed, or revisited at any point. For example, you prefer to focus on the second specific learning attribute for socio-emotional. That's all right. It doesn't mean they are numbered or arranged in that manner. Then you have to sequence it also in that manner as you try to mainstream it in the curriculum. No, it can be approached in any point. So the practical guide is you try to see whether it is relevant and appropriate for integration in the lesson. And if the answer is yes, then you can do it without worrying about the sequence of these outcomes or key learning attributes or topics, because it can be approached at any point. So with that, looking at global citizenship as a flexible framework, I say that it inspires action, informed and reflective action, not only among educators, but also among the learners we are nurturing in our classes or schools. It also inspires partnership, because it would be good to have collaborative undertakings, collaborative activities in the classroom. It inspires dialogue. There is this open communication between and among people, because we would like to explore social issues from different perspectives. And that is possible if there is open communication line. And it also inspires cooperation. So we don't compete with one another. We try to collaborate and then synergize our efforts, so that when we find solutions to existing social problems, then we will have impactful solutions. And among teachers who would like to mainstream global citizenship, then you can have your community of practice. You can share your individual practices, even your materials, even the experiences that you have in your different classes. So you will be able to collectively come up with a school-wide approach for the mainstreaming of global citizenship. So at the start, it may be the individual undertakings or advocacy of teachers, but eventually, if there would be deep and genuine cooperation, then it will be whole school approach for global citizenship mainstreaming. And this can be done through formal and non-formal education. Moving on, let us now describe a global citizen. This is what we intend to develop among our learners. If we want to integrate or mainstream global citizenship, it's because we would like to develop among our learners to become global citizens. According to Israel, a global citizen is someone who identifies with being part of an emerging world community. So we don't only take a look at our own small community or village or even our country. We take a look at the entire world as a shared community. And we have that sense of identification or belonging to the entire world. Whose actions contribute to building this community's values and practices. So our decisions and actions, even done locally, will have impact to the entire world community. And that impact can be direct or indirect. That's global citizen according to Israel. According to Doer, global citizen is someone who has global moral perspective that all human beings have certain fundamental rights and that all human beings have duties to respect and promote these rights. So the global citizen that he is referring to is a person who recognizes and therefore respects the fundamental rights of all people, regardless of their background, and accept the duty to respect and promote the rights of all people, regardless of their background or origin. Another description of global citizenship is someone who is aware of the wider world and has a sense of his own role as a world citizen, meaning seeing himself not just as a citizen of his country, but seeing himself as a citizen of the world. He respects and values diversity. He has an understanding of how the world works, is outraged by social injustice, participates in the community at a range of levels, whether local, national, or global, is willing to act to make the world a more equitable and sustainable place, even in small efforts, and takes responsibility for his action, whether it's about using the internet, digital citizenship, whether it's about consuming resources or practicing recycling or any other actions that will affect the environment. All of this would require that we take responsibility for our actions. And this is what a global citizen is according to Oxfam. In global citizenship, there are many issues being tackled. So if you are tackling these issues in your lessons, you are actually integrating already global citizenship, perhaps not just directly or explicitly mentioning the term. So issues like diversity and of identities and culture, issues related to sustainable development, issues related to peace and conflict and equities of power, issues related to resources and respect, and issues of global interdependence. These are all issues tackled in global citizenship education. I'm sure in one way or another, directly or indirectly, you have tackled these different issues. And therefore, you have already mainstreamed global citizenship in your own way. If you have not been officially or formally oriented about global citizenship, you still have been doing this all along, not just explicitly perhaps, or not just mentioning the jargon, the term GCID. Moving on, let's move on to our next subtopic, the suggested pedagogies by UNESCO. So they have recommended a number of pedagogies, which I'm sure some of you are already familiar with because you are all academicians. But there are many other pedagogies or strategies that you can use. But these are the suggested ones by UNESCO. Number one is the so-called peace pedagogy, originally developed for peace education. Excuse me. So peace pedagogy is the acronym for participatory, exchange, artistic, cultural, creative, critical, and stranging. Participatory, as the term implies, would require the sharing of stories and experiences. So we allow the learners to participate. E is for exchange. We try to open the communication line and they try to share their stories. Can be through words, through illustrations, other outputs. Excuse me. For artistic cultural, we're trying to create aha moments with them through different activities. This may include drama, songs, bodily expressions, dances, arts, and many others. And after that, they have the so-called creative critical portion or part. They make and remake, try and retry what the students have expressed. So it's not enough to be creative. They also added being critical. So they try to look at each other's work and perhaps give comments or feedback or insights out of the other learners' outputs or presentations. And then the last part is estranging, and this part should not be taken literally. It's like allowing them to question what has been familiar and then trying to make it distant. So it's like trying to look at it from a distance so that you see its entirety or the wholeness of it. So you understand it better from afar because you look at it holistically. So that's the peace pedagogy for peace education. And this is developed by UNESCO, specifically by UNESCO South Korea. But this may be applicable even in other subjects. So we are allowed to do that. We can have our own style, even coming up with our own strategy. You can, for example, modify this. But this is one suggested pedagogy. Another is the so-called design thinking. In the Philippines, design thinking is now being introduced, but basically for the teaching of sciences and math only. But this may also be applicable in other areas. And there are different steps if you would like to use this pedagogy. Of course, the first step is to empathize, then to define, and then ideate, producing the ideas, and then prototype, meaning creating the prototypes, and then testing. This is basically used in, creating certain models or device or gadget or outputs in science or even in math, but it doesn't mean it's not applicable in other areas. So you can consider this and maybe you would like to read more of this. And this is one recommended pedagogy for GSED integration by UNESCO. Another one is the so-called project-based learning. And this is something that you are already familiar with. As the term implies, project making is involved, and it includes designing, developing, then implementing, of course, but it should not end with implementation, but rather there should be reflection after implementation. This is another recommended pedagogy if you would like to mainstream GSED. And another one, the use of ICT, which you and I are familiar with. During the pandemic, this was facilitated. With the disruption caused by the pandemic, the school system didn't have any choice except to somehow continue learning despite the disruption. And they saw open and distance learning as a way to address the issue. One way to do that is to have online session, virtual sessions, which can be synchronous or asynchronous. And that is one suggested pedagogy by UNESCO when mainstreaming GSED. I had a chance to visit some schools in Greece in 2018, and we observed strategies that integrate global citizenship education in different schools. And the sharing that I will have are actually from the different teachers whom we worked with or collaborated with during the academic immersion. One is the so-called integrated foreign language curriculum. I will not read what is shared by Professor Evangelia Caragiani, but in this integrated foreign language curriculum, they are addressing attributes or learning outcomes, which are also covered by the Global Citizenship Framework, either by UNESCO or by Oxfam. For example, this curriculum is based on the pedagogical principles of the New Learning Theory, which include the following. Human condition is situated and therefore not ready-made. So that means they are encouraging contextual or reality-based learning, situational learning. Cognition is contextual and meanings are grounded on real-world patterns of experiences. So it's reality-based. And human interaction in natural context is conducive to learning, which is highly encouraged if you are integrating global citizenship education. And learning is transformative. So if you take a look at GCED, global citizenship education encourages transformative learning. And that is also one of the principles guiding the so-called integrated foreign language curriculum, which was shared to us by an ELT coordinator in East Attica. This is one of the curricula being implemented in the Greek school system. And they also have their lesson planning and knowledge objectives and knowledge processes and knowledge outcomes can all be connected to the different domains or key elements of global citizenship education, whether the UNESCO framework or the Oxfam framework for key elements for global citizenship. And also another sharing that I got during the visit is the PAP program. It stands for the Greek letters, which you can see on the slide, which when translated to English, it means literally learning and teaching English to very young learners. This is shared to us by Miss Foteni Venite of the 4th Primary School Imitu in Athens. And if you take a look at some details of the PAP program, you are going to note that some of these have semblance or similarity to the UNESCO GCED
now we're
framework.
talking about moral values. So,
For example,
what actually are you looking for?
For example, the program aims to develop the pupils' social literacies through English, the children's creativity, respect for the self and the other, and acquire awareness of linguistic and cultural difference. And that can be related closely to the issues being covered by global citizenship education, you know, identities and diversities. So these are some of the pupils having their PAP program, the English language curriculum for very young learners. Another sharing to us is done by Dr. Sophia Kitsuo of Saneo Experimental Junior High School in Piraeus, Greece. This time it goes outside the classroom. So they have the so-called EU Citizens Club. So active citizenship dimensions and aims of the EU Citizens Club are the following. Please take note that they are almost similar to UNESCO GCED's framework of global citizenship. They also have cognitive dimension. They have pragmatic dimension, which is parallel to behavioral dimension in UNESCO, and affective dimension, which is parallel to socio-emotional dimension. So you can actually see the great similarity between this outside the classroom undertaking, having a club, and then the UNESCO GCED framework or the Oxfam key elements of global citizenship. So the students who are members of the club are encouraged to write letters to government officials about issues affecting them and other people in the society. They also maintain an online forum where they can exchange insights and ideas about critical issues in their country and then the world. And they also come up with their project and then they try to have sharing of the report of their project with the different members of the club. So they are really encouraging active citizenship among the members. Another one that we noted as a strategy for mainstreaming GSED in the Greek school system is the so-called special project. This is shared to us by teacher Anna Dracuto of the 3rd General Lyceum of Iliopolis. And they have an additional or enrichment subject called special project. And they are using the European school platform called Twin Space. For this special project during our visit, it is entitled Do Not Disable Us. So they are connecting with students from different countries in Europe and United Kingdom. As they do their specific projects in their own country, they try to collaborate with students from other countries, therefore making the learning space truly multicultural. And this is the class that we observed for the special project. And this special project has been awarded the European Quality Label in recognition of its significant contribution to the development of relevant knowledge, skills, and attitudes, which can be connected to many of those in the global citizenship framework. And in the National Kapodistrian University of Athens, they do have contextual teacher training and learning. Those students who would like to become teachers someday are not really taking up a teaching program, say a bachelor's degree in college. They are not. So if you would like to be a teacher of English, they are taking a bachelor's program in English, not in teaching. But they do learn contextually because they are assigned to different mentors in the actual school. So they learn about pedagogy in the actual classrooms. So with us are the mentees, and they are learning principles of teaching and learning, not from books or from their courses, but from actual classrooms with the help of their mentors. And a student may be assigned to 2 or more schools in a given semester. And aside from that, they are encouraging learning in actual places like this is the Acropolis Museum, or like archaeological sites or UNESCO heritage sites. So they try to bring their students and then they conduct lecture there. So they are learning contextually. Of course, we have to admit that during the pandemic, this has been affected, of course. In the trainings that we have conducted in the Philippines, we have started conducting trainings on global citizenship in 2021. We have invited a number of experts from different countries, and one of whom is from Muang Krabi School in Thailand. This is an internationally awarded school for education for sustainable development. And the principal or director of the school shared about the Muang Krabi school pedagogy, and these are the 5 steps for collaborative learning process. So this is one of the pedagogies that they are implementing in their school to emphasize education for sustainable development. And education for sustainable development is closely related to global citizenship education. Another pedagogy that they recommended is the so-called one classroom, one learning base. So this is also being implemented by Muang Krabi School. And you can see on the slide the different steps to be followed. There are 7 steps of environmental education for sustainable development. And they call it one classroom, one learning base. So in this pedagogy, first period for homeroom activities at the regular classroom, but they make sure that there is the field work or field study. And then they also have 2 periods of field study in learning areas in the actual community. So from the classroom to the learning basis in the school. So this is outside the classroom, but within the school. And then they go out to the communities like this. So this is the map that was shared to us by Mr. Wasan Panya, the director of the Muang Krabi School. And another thing that is interesting about their school is the so-called Hall of Happiness. So they advocate happy school. So they have the so-called Hall Happiness, and it is a part of their school practice. So this can fall under socio-emotional dimension of the global citizenship. These are the illustration of the different learning bases inside the school system in Muang Krabi School. So the students are actually involved. One example is the ecosystem learning days. So those are the sharings that I got from Greek schools and the one from Thailand, Muang Krabi School. Now, let me share to you the small innovation that we have done in Bicol University. We have done a simple research that integrated global citizenship, learning outcomes, and topics in the different lessons in English. And we developed a learning model for this under the research project, Mainstreaming Global Citizenship Education in English Education. And we developed a curriculum guide for this. And then we developed sample lessons based on the curriculum guide. So we call it as the GZ Curriculum Guide for English. And then we also develop session plans following the learning model that we developed. So we call it as the PERC learning model, representing the following steps in the strategy: presentation or present, engage or engagement, explore or exploration, recall, then relate, reflect, and create and collaborate. So this is what we have developed considering existing models, and then we tried to put together something new. So we were guided by the 5 E's learning model, the 4 A's learning model or instructional model, and the revised Bloom's taxonomy, which emphasizes creating. With the PERC learning model, we were able to develop sample lesson plans, such as what you are seeing here. It is for grade 7 and 8. And that subject matter is appropriate expressions in seeking clarification. So this is in English. And we have also sample for elementary. Example, the topic is writing a poetry of one's inspiration, struggles, or outlook in life. And you are going to see there the GZ topic integrated. So we use the PERC learning model to develop short session plans to guide teachers. After those innovations, let's have some sample activities. The sample activities that I will show to you are taken from the following sources, which are easily available in the internet and they are free downloadable. The Global Citizenship in the Classroom by Oxfam. This is by Amnesty International, Right for Rights.
Yeah. Well,
The guide for
excuse me,
teachers.
madam.
Yes.
Excuse me, madam. Your time
Yes.
is 5 minutes more, please.
Okay.
Yeah,
So
really sorry.
I am in the last part of my
Okay.
sharing. So we
All right.
have the guide for teachers,
All right.
then the guide for students, then human rights teaching human rights, and teaching controversial issues. So these are examples which you can Google, and you can see inside these some examples. In the next few slides, which I will not read, are actually samples taken from these references. So these are the GSED samples, sample activities that I'd like to show to you. One example is consequences wheel. This is important for analyzing issues. So I will not read how it's done, but it is from Oxfam, and it can look like this. Tracing the consequences. Another activity, this one is writing solidarity letters for those who are victims of human rights exploitation. So you can look at it from Amnesty International reference. Also, that's from Amnesty International. Also, I'd like to mention picture carousel. The use of picture is a powerful tool in teaching global citizenship. So this is by UNESCO, picture carousel. So you can find some sample pictures like this, or like this, so which you can use in different parts of the lesson. So picture carousel is one sample activity, and then you can just choose the picture applicable to the issue that you are tackling in your class. Also, we have one sample from those references I mentioned, concentric circle. You know, they can talk about themselves and then proceed to their home, school, community, country, and then the world, and try to see themselves in that broad global community. These are for young learners. They can have a puppet family, and this is taken from the reference I've shown you earlier, Teaching Human Rights. So this can explore relationships between and among people. And you can also have another one from this reference, One School for All, examining the school environment and the changes that the students may recommend. And this is another activity from Oxfam. This is about diversity. So this can also be a guide or a sample for you. And in closing, after looking at the different strategies, pedagogy, and sample references and activities, let us be reminded that global citizenship is not intended to be prescriptive. It is flexible, so it should provide a flexible guiding framework. And it can be used to build on existing work in civic education, human rights education, education for sustainable development, or education for international understanding. And UNESCO GSED topics are not exhaustive, and it can be and should be complemented by topics and issues that are locally relevant and appropriate. It means that contextualization is highly encouraged. And lastly, new issues will continually emerge. And so we will continue to accommodate new issues that will come amidst a rapidly changing society or world. So those are my final requirements, looking at global citizenship as a flexible guiding principle. And so I'd like to say that to become a true global citizen, one must abandon all notions of otherness and instead embrace togetherness. After all, education gives us a profound understanding that we are tied together as citizens of a global community and that our challenges are interconnected. These are the selected websites that I have included in the presentation. So for those people who would like to read more about GSED. That ends my sharing for this afternoon. I hope that you gained some insights or I motivated you to explore on global citizenship as one of the frameworks that will guide you in your instructional practice. Thank you all for listening. Have a blessed afternoon, everyone.
All right, thank you very much, Madam Rebecca. What a wonderful, what a wonderful materials and insightful material. Thank you very much, Madam. Before we go on to the next session, okay, I just would like to sum up first a little bit about the topic. That is the global citizenship education emphasize sense of belonging to a broader community and common humanity. It emphasizes political, economic, and cultural interconnectedness between local, national, and the global. Well, Bapak Ibu, ladies and gentlemen, now we come to the questioning and answering session. So if you would like to ask Madam Rebecca, you may raise hands or you may also provide the questions on the chat box, Bapak Ibu. Time is yours.
Hello.
Yes, Pak Lidiman, please, Pak.
Yeah. Oh, thank you. Hello, Rebecca.
Hello, sir. Good
Okay.
afternoon.
Thank you for this opportunity. I think you've spoken well to represent UNESCO. That's a good idea. Actually, the concepts of global citizenship has been campaigned for a long time, perhaps
Yes.
since 1980s, by the name of
Yes.
internationalism, or with so many
Yes.
books entitled One Earth, One Mind.
Yes.
So perhaps this is not a new topic, but
Mhm.
it's always relevant to the idea that people in the world still have differences culturally,
Yes.
politically, ideologically. Now, as a teacher or moderator or whatever, facilitator, what are the obstacles of making this happen in your country? Perhaps because we people in the world have our own identities or cultural
Yes.
values that maybe hinder the idea of global citizenship, because let's say our country has our own educational policy that we emphasize on nationalism, for example, and we
Yes.
don't want
Mhm.
other countries to exploit our natural resources. So
Right.
we always defend ourselves. We don't care what you do because we want to exist. We want to struggle. We want to survive. Look at the world wars. Okay. Now, even the present time war, Russia and Ukraine, now that's a good example. Then how can you really convince people that this global citizenship education is accessible, is possibly done? Now, as a practitioner, I think you can explain to us the obstacles that you found yourselves. For example, students have different
Yes.
views on their lives, on their existence. Okay.
Yes.
Thank you,
Yeah.
Rebecca.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Yeah. The historical background that you have provided is indeed true. The idea actually existed decades ago. They just coined the term in that manner. That's why I have been emphasizing that we have been doing this all along. Maybe we're just not using the term GISED. Yeah, in our country, I have to share with you that we do have some obstacles. In fact, to be honest, the global citizenship national policy or framework is just beginning to be drafted. So we're just beginning to do it. And because we're just beginning to do it, it's not yet formally and officially disseminated to the different regions of the country. But recently, just a few months ago, UNESCO already established the GSED Cooperation Center, which is hosted by the Philippine Normal University in the capital city of Manila. Yeah, there are obstacles. Even in the conduct of the trainings that we have on GSED, the issues that you raised are actually the same issues. What if our students will say that we do not agree with the development of global citizenship because we would like to emphasize nationalism? And we explain it in this manner that even if we talked about global citizenship, it doesn't mean you are totally neglecting or forgetting nationalism, because in the global citizen framework that I have shared with you, it will emphasize respect for diversity and for identity. So if a person would prepare to have his identity, then so be it. That means we are respecting diversity. We are also emphasizing, excuse me, respect for fundamental rights,
Mhm.
which is very necessary to establish peace and order in any country. I must admit that in the Philippines, there are still peace and order problems going on. And this has been going on for several decades already.
Mhm.
The
Mhm.
problems related to that have not been solved yet under many different presidents in the Philippines.
Mhm.
And we are under our new president, for example. So in other words, one of the major obstacles for the widest dissemination of this flexible framework is that, honestly, in our region, not many teachers are adequately oriented or trained about it, whether under its new form, under the framework that I have
Mhm.
mentioned, or under the old form, which have been existing for so long. And in the 3 batches of trainings that we have conducted, we were able to train a total of 113 teachers only.
Mhm.
So
Mm.
officially, we can say that we only have that number of certified GSED teachers. By that, we mean that the other teachers may be familiar with some concepts, but they are not
Mhm.
yet fully familiar. And so if they are not yet fully familiar, they will not be
Mhm.
confident to integrate it in their practices.
So
Because
this
before
is not
one
a
can
national,
integrate,
this
this
is
is
not a
not yet,
national campaign in the Philippines. I mean,
not
only
yet, not
because
yet.
UNESCO sponsors a project, then your university may take part in
Yes,
that project.
yes,
Okay,
that's
I
correct.
see. I
That's
see.
correct.
Mhm. Mhm.
Yeah, that's correct, sir. Yeah, thank you
Okay.
very much.
Ya, sure, sure. Thank you. Ya, ya, terima kasih, Ibu Moderator.
Okay, thank you
Ya,
very much, Pak Sinaga.
ya, ya.
Okay, what a wonderful questions ya, Pak. Okay,
Iya, iya.
so Bapak Ibu, ladies and gentlemen, Madam Rebecca, I think we have to see the questions on the chat box. There is a questions from Pak Harifah, which is questions, why is global citizenship education relevant today?
Global
Yeah, Madam.
citizenship education is relevant today as it was in the past, although prior to the crafting of the UNESCO framework, it was already existing by a different term. They call it like civic education or citizenship education, missing out the term global. It is relevant because we may come from different cultures, different backgrounds, and different countries, but we belong to one world and one common humanity. For example, I am not from your country, but I can totally relate to your issues, to your concerns. I understand your perspectives and I totally respect them. And I'm sure that anyone from your country will do the same for citizens from my country and from other countries. So if we are respectful of each other's backgrounds and diversity, then we hope to have a more peaceful world, more inclusive society. That's why we say global citizenship education is relevant. It's relevant before, it's relevant today, it will stay relevant because we are all human beings belonging to one global family or community. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah.
Thank you,
Thank you
ma'am.
very much. Yeah. Okay, Pak
Mhm.
Harifah. Is there?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
Yes. Is it clear, ma'am?
Okay. All right. Thank you very much. Well, and then for the questions from Pak Michael Samosir. He
Yes.
questions about we can say global education emphasize on global moral value that UNESCO the UNESCO, which one is, yeah. The
Oxfam.
UNESCO Oxfam want to tackle. Yes, please.
Yes, I must say, yes, I must agree with the comment. It's more of a comment. Yeah. The different values placed under the key learning attributes and then under the second key element for the Oxfam framework. These are classical and transcendental values, and these are values applicable to people from different countries. So yeah, they are being emphasized, and let us remember that UNESCO is not just one country. It is composed of many different countries, and Oxfam is also a multinational non-government organization, and so they are representing different perspectives. And so for the different values that they advocate to be included, if ever we would like to mainstream global citizenship education, then we are assured that the different perspectives of people, different perspectives of countries are properly represented in these values as is stated in their frameworks. Thank you.
Sir,
All right. Yeah. Thank you,
Hmm.
Madam. And then we go to the next question, still
Yes,
on the chat box. What
yes.
lessons can we learn in global educations as we are citizens in Indonesia? And then what kinds of things are we going to improve in our life in Indonesia? So these questions come from Pak Setiawan Zega. Madam, I just would like to inform you that on this Friday forum, there are also many teachers here, many
Yes.
teachers training program, Madam.
Yes,
Okay.
that
Yeah.
is well noted, Madam. Lessons, there are many lessons. Perhaps I would not have enough time to mention all of them, but let me mention a few. What lessons can we gain? The Indonesians can gain from global citizenship. As mentioned earlier, perhaps I can say broadly that it will enhance the knowledge, skills, and attitudes that will allow the Indonesian citizens to become active citizens that will contribute to inclusive society, to a fair and just society. They will contribute to sustainable development in your society in many different areas, developing different capacities. For example, it can be along digital citizenship, becoming ethical users of the internet and technology. It can be along environment, becoming responsible users of the natural resources, and becoming respectful of each other regardless of differences, and promoting human rights. These are some lessons that can help us become better citizens of Indonesia and therefore better citizens of the world. And the same thing can be said for any country. That can be said for my country and for other countries as well. For the second follow-up question, the kind of things that we're going to improve, it will actually improve the different aspects of life. If we improve the knowledge, attitude, skills, and values, then it should lead to the improvement of the quality of life, more sustainable, more inclusive practices, more peaceful, more respectful of the rights of others. And that means we can make our learning more contextualized, so we promote the issues, practices, and the culture in the local settings to make the educational experiences of the students relevant. Because as mentioned earlier, what is global is local. That's why we are emphasizing contextualization. So those are some things that I can say to respond to the two questions posted in the chat box. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much. Okay, so it means that global citizenship education covers for the whole aspect here, Madam.
Yes.
Okay. All right. So yeah. All right, Bapak Ibu. Is there anyone that you would like to question? So, Madam Rebecca, just please, could you raise your hands, please, or provide you may drop your questions in the chat box.
There's another question in the chat box, Madam,
Oh yeah, that's a new
from
one, Madam.
Aturan.
Aturan Giawa. Okay. Yeah. I'm sorry, ma'am. In your opinion, a suitable learning model for the applications of related issues, exploring local global connections and our views, value, and assumption,
assumptions.
especially to be applied in learning process. Okay, so Bapak Aturan Giawa asked you about your opinion, madam, a suitable learning model.
Yeah, I will recommend, of course, the learning model that we have tested, because we have pilot tested it for 2 years, the PERC learning model. It includes part for the relate, for the reflect, and create and collaborate. And those are interesting parts of the lesson that will allow students to think critically, to think creatively, and then to collaborate with one another. But another one that I can recommend is to learn from the system of Finland. They have the so-called phenomenon-based learning. So you can make use of the social issues, the critical issues, locally and in the world as starting points or springboard for discussions. Yeah, you can make use of this as starting points for your grammar lessons, for example. And this is called phenomenon-based learning. We have also tested that in our university for another pilot study, and it proved to be very interesting to the learners. So 2 of the models that I can recommend to you would be the PERC learning model, which I shared earlier, and the phenomenon-based learning, which I did not share earlier, but it is also very interesting. And it originated from Finland, but you can make some innovation in it to suit to your needs, to your circumstances. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Yeah, perhaps Pak Aturan Giawa, what do you think, Pak? Are you going to respond, Madam Rebecca? Yeah, Pak Aturan Giawa, are you with us? All right, okay. Yeah, perhaps as a teacher, yeah, perhaps as a teacher, I think many teachers ask you, madam, about the model, yeah, the appropriate model for them, because nowadays they follow the teachers training program, and then in Indonesia, perhaps there are many types also models, but they just suggested only 2 models: project-based learning and problem-based learning, madam. That's why perhaps they would like to share with you about what is actually the appropriate model for them. Okay, so there is also a new questions. Oh yeah, so this is the presentation. Oh yeah.
Maraming salamat din po, Triumph si Humbing. Thank you very much. Maraming salamat.
Yes po.
Yeah. Thank you for your presentation. Wonderful presentation, madam. Okay, Bapak Ibu. If you have still any questions, could you raise your hands, please?
There are 2 raising their hands, madam.
Oh,
we
yeah.
have Warman and Rose.
Yeah. Okay. Bapak Warman Zai, perhaps, yeah. And then after that, Ibu Rominta Silalahi. Okay, Pak Zai.
All right. Well, thank you for the time to me. Yes, Ma'am Ani and Ma'am Rebecca for their presentation today. Fortunately, based on the topic today, talking about the global citizenship educations. So in this term, I got the sense of belonging to a broader community, emphasizes political economy, educational, and so on. Based on the above, global citizenship education involves that all areas of the curriculum, integrated it foreign language. So in this first, I call it based on the level or learning objectives that they are for. Yeah, the level, for example, lower or primary, upper
Primary?
primary, yes,
Yes.
lower secondary and upper secondary. So my
Yes.
question is all of the levels. So how to integrate the foreign language in all areas of the curriculum based on the level also. That's all, ma'am.
Yeah. So the categorization of the level is based on that, the lower primary, upper primary, lower secondary, and upper secondary. But you can also consider the age bracket suggested. So that can also guide you. So if you will read further the reference, I did not include it in my presentation due to time constraint. You're going to see the specific objectives, and then you can identify certain objectives from the reference applicable to you and applicable to the level. Now, you were saying something about the foreign language curriculum. Yeah, the foreign language curriculum
Yes.
that I mentioned are examples of strategies for GSED integration in some Greek schools, because English is one of their foreign languages. So in the foreign language curriculum in Greece for English, they try to integrate learning outcomes or domains also covered by the global citizenship education framework. So it's not only learning about the language per se, but it would include, if you remember, development of social literacies and then understanding oneself and others. So that's very important, because understanding oneself would mean trying to respect our own identity and then becoming familiar and being open and respectful of the identities of other people. So that's all I can say to your question, sir.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Thank you, ma'am. So the important point that all level is can be integrated. So while one more difference between education and the society. So would you like to give us the important point to encourage the both of them, ma'am, with this here?
Important points to encourage teachers. Come again?
Yes, yes, integrate with the education of the society and the implication of also.
Yeah, good question. Well, one way to encourage is to conduct capacity building activities. Hopefully, during the capacity building activities, they will be motivated to do the integration. One capacity building activity may not be enough, so there must be sustained effort to do that. Another way to encourage other educators is to put it in practice ourselves. So we serve as models or exemplars to others. So if they see that it is working with us, then other teachers may be motivated to do the same. Another one is to share what we have done with them. For example, we have some documentation, some materials, some lessons, then we can share it with other teachers, because that is one way to promote professional development, to share what we have learned and what we have practiced so that others can adopt the same things. Thank you.
Well, thank you, ma'am, Rebecca.
All right. Thank you very much, Paze. And then
Well,
we
thank you,
come
ma'am.
to, welcome. And then Ibu Rominta Silalahi. Yes, please, Ibu.
Thank you, Ma'am Nora, as a moderator. And good afternoon, Ma'am Rebecca. So,
Hello.
yes, yeah, ma'am. I miss in Philippines very much because, I was one of the candidate congregation in the Philippines. So I ever from the Philippines in 2001. So it's very
That's interesting.
I miss Philippines. Right. So back to my question, ma'am Rebecca. So you mentioned before that not only the teachers are familiar with the concepts of UNESCO. So if only some of the teachers in the Philippines are familiar to the UNESCO concept, so how is the Philippines education to be united in the using of the concept at the school or the using of the curriculum at the school in Philippines, Ma'am Rebecca? Thank you.
Thank you, Madam. Thank you for the question. Yeah, we have to admit that the national GSED framework and policy is currently being crafted. So it's not yet existing. So yes, you are correct that some schools may be adopting it because the school head and the teachers have already been trained and they have been convinced of its significance and relevance. But some schools are not yet doing it. In fact, some teachers and some school heads are totally unfamiliar with it at the moment. Although if you trace its history, it actually started decades ago, but existing under civic education or citizenship education, not using the jargon global citizenship education. So you are correct in your observations. So how do we intend to have a nationwide, a sustained promotion and integration of global citizenship? I think the only way to do that is to come up with a national framework and policy. And that is being crafted at the moment. Based on the office in charge to do that, they are expecting to have it within the school year and probably for implementation for the next school year. So yes, it is taking time. I understand that there was a plan to do it in 2020, but because of the COVID-19 pandemic, it was postponed. So the undertaking is being continued this year so that there will be a wide range implementation of global citizenship education. But please take note that that will not require the total revision of our existing curriculum, but it will only be enrichment of the curriculum. Enrichment at the classroom level or at the school level. So it can be different from different province or regions because it will be highlighting contextualization and localization. Thank you, Madam.
Maraming salamat, ma'am.
Maraming salamat po. You speak Filipino very well.
Yeah. What does it mean, Ibu? Yeah,
Thank you very much.
Oh,
Maraming
thank you
salamat.
very much. Okay. All right. All right, Madam Rebecca, I will read the questions in the chat box from Pak Marlundo Simatupang. Is English a main subject in Philippines? And then if it is, since what level do students in Philippines learn English? Yes,
Yeah,
Madam.
English is considered to be one of the official mediums of instruction in the Philippines, and it is one of the official languages in the Philippines. And yes, it is being introduced across level. But since we are also advocating for the mother tongue multilingual education, English is being introduced at grade 3 in public schools. However, in private institutions or schools, provided that they meet the minimum requirements of the curriculum, in private institutions, even in early childhood level, they are already introducing English. And that is until the last level.
So what
Thank
about Tagalog language, Madam?
Yeah, Tagalog or Filipino is the national
Filipino.
language of the Philippines. It is also being introduced as L2, meaning it's the second language. The mother tongue is the L1, meaning the first language. And English is the L3 or the third language. And then in some other schools in the Philippines, they have L4 or madrasa for the Muslim schools, they have Arabic. And in some other international schools, for example, operated by Chinese, they offer Chinese. And then in the regular curriculum in senior high school, they also offer foreign languages that include Korean, I think Japanese, German, and French. These are some of the foreign languages to be considered in different schools, not all schools though. But yes, English is offered in all schools and in almost all levels.
All right. Okay. Thank you very much, Madam. Okay. So, Bapak Ibu, do you still have any questions to Madam Rebecca? Just please. You may raise your hands, Bapak Ibu. Okay, Madam Rebecca, actually, I have a questions for you. On your slide, one of your slide, you mentioned that there is a create aha moments. Okay.
Aha.
Yeah. Aha moments. Yeah. So perhaps you can share your experience for your aha moments in every single classroom, Madam.
Yeah, the aha moments. It's like
Mhm.
it's like eureka, finding the answer. So we allow the students to perform, to actually get involved. So we do not provide them with the solutions or the answers, but we allow them to discover the answers for themselves. So they experience eureka or the aha moment, so to speak. So like they are co-learners in the learning space, and they are not empty blank sheets or blank sheets of paper. They are full of experiences. They are coming from different communities, backgrounds, and families. So they always have something to offer. And so they are capable of finding the solutions, creating the solutions to certain problems or issues. And so with that, they are given the opportunity to create knowledge and experience aha moment.
So do you think that it is appropriate in the level of university students?
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
appropriate
Mhm.
for the university students. It's also appropriate for basic education. Yeah, it's a little time consuming sometimes. And during the pandemic, perhaps that was only done digitally. But if the classes will resume face to face, we will still have some restrictions. So perhaps cannot allow a lot of movement in the classroom. It's also being done in the graduate level. So it's across levels, like giving them the opportunity to do the exploration themselves and to find solutions rather than offer to them the solutions. So that is learning by doing. That is encouraging them to learn by doing while having socialization. Yes, madam. Thank you.
Hello. Hello.
Yeah. Yes, Pak Lidimar.
How much time? How much more time do we have? I think this is very interesting. I mean, you should tell us when the
Yes,
discussion
actually,
ends, so we know what we are going to do.
yeah, if it is okay, it will be up to 4 o'clock.
So another 15 minutes.
Yeah.
Okay, Rebecca, I think I was wondering when you wrote the topic of Grecian school until I found out that you were talking about Greek school. Am I wrong?
Yes.
You
Yeah.
actually
Greek
wanted
schools.
to say Greek school rather than Grecian school.
Yeah.
Because I thought when you say Grecian, there must be somebody by the name of Grace or whatever. My question is, I just wondered why you chose Greek school system as the model. Is it because the Secretary General of the United Nations is from Greece?
No.
Or if I'm not,
Not
yeah,
really the reason. In one of the conferences in the university, one of the resource persons who introduced to us to the topic global citizenship education happens to be from Athens, Greece. And so there was some sort of exchanging of faculty. And so we were allowed to visit some schools, and then we gained some insights into their actual practices, especially in the teaching of English. So it just happened that it is something interesting to share. So I would share it whenever I talked about, enriching English curriculum with global citizenship education from the sharing of the different faculty that we have met. So no particular lesson.
no
But it would be,
historical context, because we know that
yeah.
Greece was the motherland of the European
Yes,
civilization,
right.
because we know these philosophers like Aristotle,
Yes.
Socrates, and
Yes.
Plato, and things like that. So perhaps they think that this is the country where you can have original ideas about education.
Yeah, that is true, sir. And that's also interesting. In fact, when we visited their libraries and seeing the ancient books, it was always interesting because in the Philippines, many Greek philosophy, literature, and mythology is part of our
Yeah.
curriculum. It is
Yeah.
part of the basic education curriculum. It is also part of the curriculum for teacher education for English major, the Greek mythology, and for teacher education across the different majors, the Greek philosophers. These are being
Okay.
tackled in our school. So yeah, it would be interesting also. Yeah, we really recognize that the glory that was Greece is still something that is true to some respect today, because original ideas would come from them. You are right about that.
Yeah, they still glorify the Greek philosophy, right? From Socrates of the teaching model, or Plato's about knowledge, and Aristotle about democracy, like
Yes,
John
about
Dewey's
democracy.
system of democracy. So this is global citizenship is basically on the concept of democracy. But
That's correct.
let's see
That's
that
correct.
it's gonna be real in the real world. I hope. Thank
I
you,
hope to.
Rebecca.
Yeah, thank you so much, sir.
Yeah.
All right,
Terima
thank you
kasih.
very much. Yeah,
Yeah.
Bapak Sinaga.
Iya, terima kasih.
All right, Pak. Okay, Bapak Ibu, still any questions? No more question? Yeah, Pak Natsir, what about this, Pak? Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Sorry.
I think we have to end our session.
Yeah, that's why I'm still waiting. Maybe some of the participants will curious about this curriculum. Will ask question. Maybe we will 2 minutes. Maybe.
Okay.
Ma'am
All right.
Ani.
Yeah. All right, Pak. Okay. So I just would like to ask you again, Madam Rebecca. In what ways actually is global citizenship being mainstreamed?
In what ways?
Yeah.
Currently, if I would like to speak about our experience, we are integrating it in the lessons in English because we have developed the sample lessons and the curriculum guide for it. So we're integrating it in lessons, but we're also integrating it in some after school outside classroom activities through clubs, for example, of students. That's also part of it. And for teachers, we also have capacity building activities for teachers. So along professional development, we're also integrating global citizenship education. And it is also being connected to many other relevant issues in the university and in the country, like gender and development, environmental education, and then human rights education and peace education. These are related concepts to global citizenship education, and these are already established areas of study in the university and in the country, and there are existing centers in charge of this. For example, gender and development, human rights education, peace education. So GCED is being mainstreamed through the different centers and offices also. And they conduct activities for students, for teachers, and for the members of the community, the general members of the community. Thank you.
Okay. All right. So those are managed by the government, Madam.
Excuse me, come again.
Yeah. Those activities are handled or managed by the government.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. Some of them
Okay.
are managed and funded by the government. Others are managed, organized, and funded by non-government organizations. Yes.
And also your explanation just now, contextual teachers training on your
Yes.
country. Yeah. Okay. So perhaps we can say some activities, Madam, about the teachers training in your country, in Philippines.
During the pandemic, it was heavily affected because the immersion, which we now call as the teaching internship, was only done virtually. Hopefully,
Okay.
this school year it will be done on site.
Mm,
So
okay.
they are on their last semester of the fourth year in college, and they go to the different schools to serve as the interns. So they experience the life and duties of real teachers. So I think just like in your country.
Okay. All right. Okay. Thank you very much, Madam Rebecca. All right, Bapak Ibu, do you still have any questions? Oh yeah, this one on the chat box. Yeah.
Chat box.
Yeah. From Bapak Janes, global citizenship education covers three conceptual dimensions or domains of learning: knowledge, cognitive, socio-emotional, affective, behavioral, psychomotor. How do I teach global citizenship education while I don't mastering about cross-country understanding of another countries? Yes, madam.
Yeah, I think we are in the same circumstance. I do not claim also that I am a master of cross country understanding. I think many are similarly situated. We can start small by referring to the framework and referring to some sample materials in the different references that I've shared. If you take a look at those toolkits, they are called toolkits because they are easy to refer to, they are very readable. You can try to browse them, and if you can see some activities relevant to the topic that you are having in your lesson, that will actually encourage active learning, then you can try it out. And then you can also uh, ask some other teachers or practitioners who have been doing this for a long time and maybe try to seek their suggestions. That's one way of learning to do it. Like, we don't become a master of anything overnight, so we can start small. So even
Yeah.
if we don't have the mastery of the cross country understanding, that's all right. Many are similarly situated, but we can start small. The different websites and resources that I have shared with you can be a good starting point. It's all
Okay.
right to start small.
Yeah. Okay. All right. That's a very wonderful answer, a response, yeah, from Madam Rebecca. Well, Bapak Ibu, ladies and gentlemen, I think
Yes, I
yeah,
think
Pak
the
Nasir.
time. Yeah, I think the
Yeah,
time is enough for
yeah,
our discussion today, Ma'am Ani.
yeah. Okay, Pak Dr. Nasir. Bapak Ibu, I think we have already arrived at the end of the session. Again, we would like to express our thousands of thank you to Madam Rebecca Rosario, PhD, for joining us in our Friday forum.
You're
Okay.
welcome.
All right,
Thank you.
Bapak Ibu, could you open your microphone and give the big hands to Madam
Okay,
Rebecca.
thanks a lot.
Okay,
See you again. Okay.
all right.
Yeah,
Thank
yeah.
you
Okay,
also.
Thank you.
yeah, welcome, Madam. All right, Bapak Ibu, that's all what I can do for today's on this respected forum. And I will give it back to Bapak Dr. Nasir. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Ibu Ani, and special thank you to our speaker, Madam Rebecca Rosario. Thank you for your explanation for us how the curriculum, how the uh, 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 contextual between Indonesia and Philippines, because most of the participant in here is a teacher, should be guiding, uh, like you gave us. It's really enrich our knowledge about teaching. Okay, thank you again, Ibu, Madam. We call that Ibu in here, Madam Rebecca
Ibu.
Rosario, for
Yeah.
your presentation and sharing us the experience, a lot of experience that we have, a lot of knowledge. Again, thank you all the participants who had
Yeah.
present in here. Thank you very much,
Yeah.
Ibu
Thank you very
Ani. Again,
much.
thank
Thank you
you.
very much. Yeah.
So we close our discussion in here at 4
4 o'clock.
to 10, 4 o'clock in Indonesia time. Okay, and see you on another session. Thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you very much, Madam. Thank you very much,
Thank you,
all the
madam.
Very much,
participants. Thank
everyone,
you.
for the
Thank
kind
Thank
you.
attention.
you.
Thank you very
Thank
much
you
too.
very much.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
It's nice
Yeah.
meeting you all, at least virtually.
Yeah.
Thank
Thank
you,
you very
madam.
much.
Diversity.
See you.
Very much.
Okay.
Terima kasih Ibu Ani, terima kasih semua partisipan, peserta yang sudah menghadiri, sudah ikut berpartisipasi dalam diskusi kita hari ini di Universitas Negeri Medan, Fakultas Bahasa dan Seni, khususnya jurusan Bahasa Inggris. Terima kasih atas partisipasinya. Semoga kita semua mendapat pencerahan dari apa yang diberikan oleh pembicara kita hari ini, bisa berguna buat kita, yang walaupun kita lihat secara garis besarnya yang dia berikan, yang artinya secara detail mungkin bisa kita kembangkan di daerah kita masing-masing. Artinya ada lokal tadi dia sebutkan, ada national, ada global. Ya mungkin tadi ada pertanyaan, ya mungkin kita bisa mulai dari lokal dulu, ya kan? Contextual lokal, sangat bervariasi yang bisa kita terima tadi. Semoga kita bisa berjumpa lagi di sesi forum grup diskusi atau forum grup discussion di Friday Forum Universitas Negeri Medan yang mungkin 2 bulan lagi. Terima kasih semuanya atas partisipasinya. Selamat sore. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Selamat sore juga Pak. Terima kasih
Waalaikumsalam.
banyak juga Pak.
Warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.